Welcome, everyone, to Everyday Ethics on this fine Monday afternoon. I don't know why I said that. It sounded ridiculous, but whatever. Today, we're going to talk about probabilities. And I'll tell you in a minute what I mean by probabilities. But first, thanks everybody for joining me. And also remember that we have super chats, super stickers that help immensely. So, I'm going to give you some examples of what I mean by probabilities. I used to do an alternative to violence class. It's called the Alternative Violence Project. It's a weekend group, and I used to be a facilitator for it. And oftentimes, I'll give you, we used to do, for instance, I statements, and we would teach people to use I statements rather than you statements, so that the way you're talking doesn't come off accusatory or blaming, and you're owning what you're saying. And almost two weekend, because it's a weekend program, guys would inevitably say, but that won't work with X, my celly, my uncle, the guy, the bum on the corner, whatever. And what I would tell them is the same thing that I would, well, I don't want to jump in. Just keep that in mind, that this won't work all the time. This won't work with this one's or whatever. There was a lot of exercises that they would say that about. Also, when dealing with ethics, we talk about the values and the virtues of the objectivist ethics, and I'll often have people say, because the standard of value in objectivism is your own life. It's, human life, individual life. And people say, yeah, but, you can do that. But what if this happens? And what if that happens? And, well, I knew a guy that was a total scumbag and he lived to 100 and was very rich. And I knew a guy who was good and he died at 30 and he was broke. The problem is life, it doesn't come with guarantees. Right? It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter how good you are. It doesn't matter how hard you try. Nothing guarantees success. I could be the best person in the world, leave tonight to go out, pull out of my driveway, someone smashes into me and kills me. Morality is not a cosmic thing where some deity is going to come bless us for the way that we behave. Now, I understand that's what we've been taught, right? That's what most people think of morality. If I behave well, I'm going to go to heaven. I have to do this step. If you're a Christian, I accept Jesus, I get to heaven, and voila, paradise. But life isn't actually like that. Life consists of probabilities. So I could do everything right and it not work. And guys say, oh, well, see, that seems like a flaw. Well, look, I can eat right, exercise, do everything possible that's healthy for me, and die of a heart attack at 40. I can't die at 40 because I'm 49, but you get my point. There are no guarantees, but what we're trying to do is maximize our chances for success, maximize our chances for flourishing when we take actions. And please feel free, everybody, and hello to everyone who's saying hello, to ask any questions or give your comments. I, for one, appreciate it, and it does help the flow of the show when when you're asking good questions, and then I have to respond, because then I don't have to just make stuff up out of my head. But yeah, so life is about probabilities. There's no guarantees, but we want to maximize our chance for being happy, for being healthy. So that's what we need ethics for. That's what we need guidelines on how to behave. Thank you very much, Daniel, for the 99-cent super sticker. Very much appreciate it. So now sometimes there's a very good chance of succeeding, and sometimes there's a decent chance, and sometimes 50-50, and sometimes it's, you've all heard of the statement, high risk, high reward, right? So how do we do that, right? How do we calculate the possible costs and benefits, or the risks and benefits of a given action? Well, the first thing is we have to understand principles, right? And we've talked about these principles previously on this show. No, I do not believe in destiny. So when you have principles, the principles of ethics aren't to be sundered, right? We don't try to separate them from achieving values. But once we have the ethical framework, we have our standard, which is our own lives, and we have the principles that are to guide us in achieving this, then we can say, okay, well, this activity is risky. What's the reward if I happen to succeed? And that is something only you can do. You have to assess what your tolerance for risk is, how much of a risk. I mean, if you fail, are you going to die? Are you going to be crippled? Are you going to lose somebody that you love? Like if you're, say you work, I'll use my friend Daniel just as a hypothetical. He used to work when he was young at Vito's Pizza in Weathersfield, Connecticut. So suppose he says, you know what? I think that I can go out and succeed on my own. I don't need this job. I can be a successful entrepreneur. Now, you could be a great entrepreneur and still end up broke. So he says, okay, I'm going to do this. He gives up the security for for the entrepreneurship. Thank you, Daniel, for yet another super sticker. Appreciate it. And he's sending them from a plane, folks. That's wonderful. Now, only he can decide if the risk of being an entrepreneur is worth it. How much money does he stand to make? What if he loses? What if the business is a success? How much work is he going to have to put forward? But he ought to do that with his own life and his own happiness in mind, and reference what he's trying to do against the principles of ethics, such as, productiveness, integrity, honesty. Is he doing these things as he moves forward? And, maybe as he's going along, he sees the business isn't going to work. He sells it. Maybe he's willing to take more risk. But that's something that we all have to decide for ourselves. How much risk tolerance do we have? Now, I personally would say, if you have a 1 in a million shot at becoming rich off of something, but 999,999 $999 chance of dying, then I would say, no, that's definitely not worth a risk. But that's an obvious thing, and things are very rarely that clear. Everything that we do entails risk, right? I go for a walk, there's a risk. I go to the store, I drive, that's a risk. But we judge these as being worthwhile risks. Some things are more risky than others. My nose is really itching. It's driving me crazy. Daniel says the safety net of being employed over self-employed is the hardest part. Yes, because then you have some degree of certainty, not complete. That business that you work for can burn to the ground. They can lose money. They can go out of business. The manager might be committing fraud and end up in jail. That's still no guarantee, but it's more certain than to work for an already established business than it is to go out on your own. Now, you think in terms of a relationship. Do you go introduce yourself to the girl? What if she rejects you? What if she hates you? What if you end up in a relationship and it doesn't work? What if, like it happened to me? What if your love dies? All things entail risk. But if we just sit back and say, I'm not going to take any risks, then we're paralyzed. And also, if we say we're not going to adopt any ethical principles unless there's a 100% chance of success, we're going to remain paralyzed. So what we do is we adopt a rational ethics based on life as the standard of value that maximizes our chance of success. And what we ought to do in our daily behavior is maximize our chance for success, for happiness, for our own well-being. Daniel says a lot of people hit the ground running and succeed, but there is a million more failure stories. Yes, there are, Daniel. I got a question for the audience. Why is Daniel the only one commenting here? I see there's other people in my audience. FF Mormani, who I'm going to be interviewing very soon. I'm kind of excited about that. She's reached out to me quite some time ago, and now I finally have the time to do it. Like the podcast, for instance, my podcast, I love doing this. I love talking. I love thinking. I love engaging with people, discussing ideas, but you don't become an overnight success at it. So I have to be willing to tolerate the questions. Oh, you're still doing that. And are you making any money yet? That sort of thing. Plus the time investment where I could be doing other things. There's opportunity cost. I could go work for somebody else and make a lot more money than I'm currently making, either off of this or off of my day job. Oh, Greg Lewis is listening from work. Well, thank you, Greg. That's great. I appreciate that. Daniel says more people should donate as well. We cannot pressure people to donate, but it is very much appreciated. But yeah, so if you think about the podcast, so what are the benefits? What are the risks? The benefit is I'm doing what I love to do, and I also I believe will be successful at it. How successful, I don't know, but I believe I eventually will be able to make a living doing this. Um, and the risk is what? That it won't work out. I'll waste some of my time. Okay, maybe, but is it really a waste of time when I'm losing? When I'm losing, when I'm learning so much about, I learn about myself, my own abilities. I had to step out of my comfort zone. I've been able to meet so many good people. So to me, it's well worth the risk, and it's going to benefit me even if I end up not making money from it, because of the edification, because of the sort of courage that I've gained to step out and do this sort of thing. So there's a lot of other factors when you're taking risks, and you have to consider a lot of them. Your health, your well-being, your finances, your family. Maybe you have children. I don't know. Persephone says everything that I've gained seems successful to me. Daniel's loading me up with super stickers for 99 cents. Thank you very much, Daniel. I will be using this cash to pay for coffee, and we better be getting coffee Wednesday, by the way. Danny, if you screw me again on the coffee, we may have a personal beef. Of course, you're much bigger than me and could beat me up, so I don't know how far I can take this beef, but we'll have it anyway. Cosmic Wolf says most jobs you love don't make you rich, except in your self-esteem. Well, self-esteem's huge. You got to have self-esteem. Got to. So, I mean, that's one of the three values, right? Remember, reason, purpose, self-esteem. So any career that you pursue ought to be engaging these. Whether it be, no matter the risk, you're on your way to Mexico. I thought you were on your way back. Jesus. All right. Well, go have fun in Mexico. I'll just sit here on my own. No coffee partner, nothing. You've been telling me it's going to have to be next week for like 3 weeks now. But you're making it up with super stickers. So, that's pretty cool. I've got a debate tomorrow night. If anybody's interested, I'll be debating a guy named Casimir on the Biblical Anarchy podcast. We're going to be debating whether or not it's in America's interest, the actions that Trump has taken in Venezuela. So I'm really looking forward to that. See, debating, there's something else that I find is in my interest to do. I like to debate. I like the challenge. I like the context. I like engaging my mind. I like discussing ideas. I like to persuade people to, my side of things. But sometimes maybe, the risk is that, well, I'll lose, but that's not really much of a risk, because what the hell do I lose? If I lose a debate, I learn. It'll be 8:00 Eastern time tomorrow night, Catherine. It could end up in a situation where the person's rude or the person doesn't actually want to discuss. So I guess I could lose a little bit of time, but ultimately it's something that I enjoy. So I do it. But that's not your values, right? You have to decide what your values are. You have to decide what risks you're willing to take. But always your endeavor should be your own well-being, your own flourishing, your own happiness. And that is the purpose of the ethics that we're teaching here. Remember, every day you are faced with probabilities, risks, possibilities, and you have to decide which ones are worth it and which ones are not. I'm getting a text from my boss. All right, another job to do. That's fantastic. Daniel says to send him the link. He'll try to watch. I will. You can tune in. I'll send you the link when I get it, Danny. That's something I really enjoy, is debating. And I have to be careful with that, because you can't expose yourself to some people that aren't really good faith arguers, who just want to be rude, who want to engage in insults rather than arguments. But that's a small price to pay, or a small risk to take on my behalf. This is not good. That's sick. My phone has been, as I'm talking, my phone was recording what I'm saying. to sending a text. Thank God I didn't hit the press button. That wouldn't have been a very good thing. So I'm curious, what types of risks are you willing to take, or what types of risks are you facing in your lives? What probabilities are you currently calculating? I really want to engage the audience. That my vision for this show was always to be an interactive thing where the audience would engage, maybe ask questions, maybe ask advice, maybe I can ask you for advice. So it's very, very helpful when you are engaging me. No Name says, whatever it takes. Who prays for Satan? Persephone says, you gave some good advice about debating. If winning matters more than finding truth, shut it down. Basically, paraphrase. Yes, Persephone, that is very, very, very true. How do you, I want to talk a little bit about assertiveness. I'm gonna switch this up because a lot of people are afraid to be assertive. They don't want to speak their minds. They're afraid of upsetting other people or getting rejected, that kind of thing. But you have a right to express your thoughts and express your feelings respectfully. You don't want to be a dick about it, but you have the right. Nobody else's feelings are more important than yours. Nobody else's thoughts are more important than yours. If somebody is doing something and they are wrong, or you think they're wrong and they are causing you pain, whether it be psychological, physical, emotional, you have the right and the moral right to speak out, to be respectful to them and talk to them about whatever it is. Now, you think about the risk. Now, some people are afraid, well, if I speak my mind, maybe I'm going to lose my friend. Maybe I'll fundamentally alter the relationship in a way that it's not good. But if somebody can't respect your right to speak up for yourself, or can't respect your right to express your feelings, I don't know how much of a risk it is if you lose that person, because that person is not a good friend anyways. That person is not good for you. That person doesn't really have your best interest in mind. You should be able to tell people how you feel and what you want. Now, they may say no. Like, you could ask somebody, maybe you have a spouse and you say, hey, can you do me a favor and stop leaving glasses in the sink? Right. And they say, well, I don't have a problem with it. I put my glasses in the sink and I'll wash them when I get to them. Well, now you're faced with a decision. Do you just do the dishes yourself? Do you get a divorce over it? I mean, that seems kind of silly. Or you just hell with it. You know what I mean? It's not that big of a deal. So let me see. We've got some comments here in the chat. Danny says the biggest risk he's currently running is gambling on himself. He has several businesses, as well as staying employed can often be mentally overwhelming and draining. Yeah, that's true too. And you don't want to burn yourself out. That's one of the risks also. Fortunately for Danny, he has me, and he can talk to me about his issues. He can talk to me about his stress, and I'm there to talk. And by the way, I mean, he would listen to me as well. I'm just, talking right now in this context. Catherine says she's currently thinking about whether it would be better for her to find another job, but she's not sure if that would be smart because she really has put a lot of work into the position in her current job. What I would like for you to do, Catherine, is look up sunk costs. Right. Sunk cost is the idea that where you keep doing something that you don't want to do because you've already put so much into it, but it's harming you. If your job is harming you and you want something better, or you think you can get something better, then take that risk maybe on yourself. And that's up for you to decide. But don't stay stuck in a situation because you've worked so hard at it. Remember the saying, cut your losses. Cut your losses and move on. And maybe that's the best thing for you. Wayward Sister 92 says, I feel no one respects me because I'm different and still a kid mentally. No Name says that she respects you. So that's great. I don't know who you are to assess the statement that you're making, but what matters is whether you respect yourself. That has to come first, right? You don't want to spend your time worrying who else respects you. The important thing is to respect yourself. I don't know what you mean by being a kid mentally. Maybe you have a handicap, maybe there's an impediment there. But if you're capable of watching this show and you're capable of typing that sentence, it seems to me that you are still capable of living a good life and of flourishing. And your happiness and your flourishing ought not to be dependent on whether other people respect you. Do I have advice on gaining social skills? Uh, I can be a wicked dick. Well, I don't think I'm being a dick, but sometimes, I like breaking balls. I don't care if people break my balls. It's fun. It's entertaining for me, but sometimes people don't like that. The most social skills, what I would say is be willing to be yourself and to speak up, to tell people what you think and what you feel. And if they don't like it, tough. I mean, if you're not being insulting and you're not being rude and you're not being a jerk, just speak up, talk to people. But don't make their opinion of you or make your self-respect, your self-esteem dependent on their opinion of you or whether they accept you. But there are a ton of books out there on how to communicate. I mean, you just look up books on how to communicate. You want to speak your mind, use I statements, that sort of thing. But there's a ton of them out there. Who Prays for Satan says, be willing to face rejection. Abso-freaking-lutely. If you're not willing to face rejection, you can never accomplish anything. You just got to be willing to do it. And maybe you'll get rejected, maybe you won't, but ultimately you will learn and you will grow. It seems that no name and Wayward Sister are friends. Am I accurate in my assessment, ladies? Wayward Sister 92, I'm assuming that means that you're born in 1992, but I could be wrong. But are you two friends? Oh, we have some advice here. So Daniel says, always know when to stop talking and walk away. But that's something that needs to be learned. Who Prays for Satan says, being comfortable with being rejected is the most important thing because confidence attracts people. See, it does attract people. You're right. People are attracted to confidence, but you don't want to make there's a paradox here. If you make attracting other people your reason for being confident, you're already sending the message to yourself that the other people are more important than you are, and that will undercut your confidence. What ultimately you want to do is build self-esteem, self-respect, and self-confidence, right? You want to build these things in yourself by living ethically, by doing your best, by committing your mind to rationality. That will increase your confidence. And then, yes, you will attract people and you will attract better people. But if you start off with your goal, I want to attract people, that's a disaster waiting to happen, in my view. Oh, so Danny says, ask questions to get them to talk about themselves. Well, let me tell you something. Understand the difference between confidence and arrogance. So, yeah, Danny's absolutely right. People love to talk about themselves. Yours truly, no exception. But there's a difference between asking about themselves and being invasive with your questions, right? Like, you have to, a lot of this stuff is like Danny says, it's trial and error. You learn from life, you'll learn, and different people have different thresholds for what's offensive or what's asking too much of them, right? Or what's prying into their personal business. So you have to be careful, but you can't win if you don't play. That used to be the Connecticut Lotto's catchphrase. No Name says, I don't know anyone here, but I respect everyone. Well, that's interesting that you say I respect everyone, No Name. I do not. Now, there's a assumption of respect when I deal with any human being. I'm going to show them respect when I don't know them, and I will respect them as a fellow human, as somebody else that's in this struggle that we call life, who I will make an assumption is doing their best and trying to succeed. But if somebody is not, if I know somebody's character and that person's not deserving of respect, I have no obligation to respect them. That doesn't mean I have to be disrespectful to them. Doesn't mean I have to be a jerk, but I don't need to respect them and I can choose to stay away from them. And that's just, there's no reason to respect an asshole, to respect somebody that's unethical. You have no obligation, certainly no duty to do so. Danny says he was a shy kid once. You never know that by the version of me today. He wanted to be more comfortable outside his comfort zones. That's really important. If you on my Rational Egoist show, I've done some episodes that have to do about that have to do about coming out of your comfort zone. And I find coming out of the comfort zone is huge. I was a shy kid too, very self-conscious, very low self-esteem. And what I found helpful for that is just doing silly things, even if they're in public, because by doing that, I've learned that it doesn't matter what other people are thinking of me. In San Diego recently, I'm outside of a fancy hotel with some people. I just took my shirt off and started singing Bonnie Tyler. What's it? Holding out for a hero. I didn't. Whatever. I was fun for me, so I did it. Jim Valiant says, "Enough talking about him. What do I think about him?" Well, Jim Valiant, I think you are freaking spectacular. If I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, you are a wonderful guy, a great mentor, and an awesome debate opponent. Jim Valiant is one of the two toughest debaters I've ever faced, the other being David Friedman, the son of the Nobel Prize winning economist Milton Friedman. These guys have IQs that are off the charts. I mean, they're way above me, but I happen to be very skilled at debating, and I only debate things where I'm very confident that I can win. So I know what I'm talking about. So Cosmic Wolf says she's the same way. If you show you don't deserve respect, you will not receive it. Persephone, or who prays for Satan? I keep calling you Persephone, and then I look at the thing. I want people to know who I'm talking about. Says, I am respectful until the person proves they don't deserve it. Yes, I think that's some good advice from Persephone. See, this is what I'm talking about. This is why I want you as the audience to be more engaged, because when you are engaged, yes, you are engaged, it helps the show, it helps the flow of the discussion, and you never know who else is going to benefit from what you're saying. I may be benefiting, the other person in the chat may be benefiting, people who aren't even commenting may be benefiting. And if we can do that, if we build that type of culture on this show, or that type of environment, then we can all grow together. And that's really the point, right? We want to grow. We want to learn to be more ethical in our everyday lives so that we can be better people, so we can feel better, so we can be happy, so we can flourish. Jim Valiant, the atheist, says he is blessed to know me. Right back at you, brother. Right back at you. You ever want to, if you're a religious person, not a religious person, if religion interests you, by the way, you may want to check out Jim Valiant's book, Creating Christ, or you can watch the PBS documentary on the book, Creating Christ. I mean, this guy spent like 30 years writing this. This is a radical theory about the origins of Christianity, well-reasoned, backed up with facts. That'd be something to check out. I've watched the documentary. I've not read through the entire book. It's very difficult, to be honest, for me to read entire books nowadays because I'm constantly reading articles, or somebody will send me a book out of nowhere that I have to read in order to interview the person. I've activated Persephone's Siri. I'm sorry about that. Maybe, I don't know. But that kind of made me anything for Buddhists. I don't know what you mean, anything for Buddhists. Do you want me to recommend a book for Buddhists? I don't know, but I think Wayward Sister 92 is new to the show, and if so, I'll welcome you, and welcome anybody that's out there that's just joining. I hope you are learning from me. I know that I learn from the audience, and I hope to continue to do so. So why not ask yourself this question, right? Before we close up, because we're coming down to our final minute here. Ask yourself this question: what's something I can do to step outside of my comfort zone? It doesn't mean you have to do it, right? Don't intimidate yourself. But ask yourself, what's something I can reasonably do to step outside my comfort zone? Once you come up with that, then you can say, am I willing to do it? Is it ethical for me to do it? But what could you do to step outside your comfort zone? Because stepping out of your comfort zone is the only way you can ever truly grow. All right, we're 30 seconds left. Thank you, everybody, for joining me here. By the way, I've got a series on my podcast, The Rational Egoist, that Jim Valiant and I are doing on using this book right here as a guide to self-improvement. The current episode has to do with objectivity. I highly recommend it. You can really benefit from it. I know I benefit from my discussions with Jim. Everybody, I'll see you tomorrow. Until then, stay ethical.